Hello and welcome to this show on how to pivot from your corporate job to an online business. I'm your host, Diana YK Chan. I'm a career coach, speaker, and trainer at My Market Ability, where I help ambitious professionals define a meaningful career, navigate change, and differentiate as top talent to get hired and earn more. I am so delighted that you're here, and I'm super excited to have a special guest today, Betty Campa, to share with us her career journey of how she also made the pivot from corporate to entrepreneurship. Her and I are going to be discussing with each other as well of our journey together to offer you some insights and some tips, and also to hope to give you some inspiration and motivation to kickstart your entrepreneur journey as well. So if you are here live with us, please type in the chat room to say hello. Tell us maybe a little bit, where are you at in your career journey? What are you excited to learn from us today? The purpose of today's session is really more like a free flow where I'm going to be asking questions along the way, and Betty and I are going to have a discussion, and then we're going to answer your questions along the way. So welcome. So hi, Betty. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Diana. I'm so excited to really chat about our favorite topic here and just spread the knowledge, and I'm excited.
Me too. You are my first guest to do this interview with, so I am super excited and honored. So awesome. All right. So I see a few people tuning in. We have about 18 of you here. So hello. Awesome. So I'm going to kickstart. So why don't we first start with Betty, like a little brief intro of who you are, who you serve, and what you do now.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Betty Campa. I'm an executive career change coach, and I help mid to senior level corporate women transition out of unfulfilling jobs into careers that they love. Now, some of my clients transition into another type of corporate career, and then I have another section of my clients that transition into building their own coaching business online.
Nice.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. So for me, my one-on-one coaching practices, I work with mid to senior level executives and professionals who are in that stage of looking to figure out what's next and need help with really primarily like how to market themselves effectively. So I would say for me, branding, marketing, and sales is really my specialty because of my background in recruiting there. So Betty, let's start with this question. What was your corporate experience prior to starting your business? And what knowledge and skills did you develop that helped you with running your business?
Such a juicy question. So I was an internal communications manager. So an internal communications manager at various large corporate headquarters. And you know, as far as the second part of the question, what knowledge and skills did I develop that helped me run my business? I honestly feel, to be completely transparent here, I feel like a lot of the skills that I developed to help me run my business happened after I quit the corporate world, which sounds really strange because I was doing it for 10 years. But I feel like when I was in that world, I was kind of stuck in a box. And I don't feel like my creativity didn't really spike until after I left. And that's when I started to get excited on taking courses and reading books on building my business. And that's when it started to get fun. Even troubleshooting started to get fun because I felt inspired. But that being said, I will say that my role in communications, it did mean that I knew how to write. And my business, I lean heavily on content marketing and as a way to attract new clients. So it was helpful, obviously, coming into it, knowing how to write. And the other thing was in the corporate world, I had to stick to a very strict schedule of launching my communications each day for our employees. So I had to stick to that schedule. And as a business owner, you know, you're your own boss, and it can be tempting to kind of, I'm busy today, or let things slide. But I feel like I had that ingrained in me from the corporate world to stick to that schedule. And I was able to carry that over.
That's amazing to hear that discipline. And I have to say, I really admire your writing skills, communication skills. You have one of the best, I would say, I consider quality in terms of the work of the way you write. It's really, really strong. So I definitely think you have really amazing communication skills, written and verbal as well. So I really wanted to acknowledge you for that. So I think for me, so I have a background in recruiting, about 10 years of recruiting experience. And I also worked in management consulting and also worked in corporate in a variety of roles in like marketing, operations, and training. So I feel like I've really had gained that diverse experience and skill set that has really allowed me to serve my clients in a way where I really understand also how the corporate world works in terms of navigating a career path. And what I would say also what has really helped me what I do now, or has been a springboard to my business, is really when I joined Google as their first and only recruiter here in Google Canada. And that recruitment experience really helped me with getting credibility in terms of my expertise in recruiting, but it also helped launch my speaking business. That year that I was in that job for the first year, I did over a dozen speaking gigs because of that recruitment experience that I had. And it really was helped set the direction of my business today, which is all about differentiating as top talent.
So good.
Yeah.
I love your background too. Isn't it interesting? You can tell the stuff that people pull into their next role. It's really cool.
Yeah, what they bring in, the knowledge as well. So here's another juicy question here. What was the pivotal moment when you realized that you weren't really fulfilled in your corporate job and that you really needed to make a change?
Yeah. So, I feel like it was a series of things that kind of led up to that moment. I definitely had some amazing bosses on my journey, but I also had some toxic bosses. And when you have a toxic boss, it makes it very painful to go to work. And it makes it painful to just even get your job done. And so I think, that the corporate world of, playing politics in order to get a project pushed through or to get promoted or to keep your job, that was a turnoff for me. And so I already kind of knew it kind of was building in the back of my mind, like, I don't know if this is for me long term. I don't know if this is what I want to do forever. Eventually, I moved to a new city for a new shiny role, a really awesome role at an awesome company that felt like, oh, this is it. This is my dream job. And then I got laid off. And so that was my fork in the road. That was like, I knew at that point, it was like, I can either get another corporate job easily. And PS, of course, like career coaches, that's what we're good at. Like I was awesome at branding myself and getting my foot in the door and interviewing. That's where I was great. And I knew I could do that real quick, or I could find a way out. I could figure out what was next. So I got severance from that layoff, which of course is meant to buffer you as you move into your next role. But instead I decided to research what kind of role I wanted. I really, really got introspective, and I ended up using a huge chunk of that severance to pay for my certification as a coach. And that's what was that pivotal moment for me.
Wow, that's amazing to hear that you use that. That's amazing. I wonder, for those who are here live, like whether there's anything of this that you can relate, having worked in corporate, that's giving those feelings of just that burning desire to make a change. So for me, I would say it was after I completed my MBA, I went into management consulting and I worked really, really hard to get into consulting. I actually got rejected many times. And finally, I got into one of the top consulting firms after even I got rejected. And I was there for a year, working crazy hours, like 80, 90-hour weeks. This was during the last recession, 2008, at that time. And it wasn't completely something I loved. I got into, it was probably talent management consulting, human capital. And I was doing like training development, training design work with a team in India, designing technical training. And I was working crazy hours. I was just not happy and fulfilled. And I really questioned whether I was a failure because I spent so much money on an MBA and made a big career change and still not fulfilled. And I felt so embarrassed to actually quit. And one of the pivotal moments was when my grandmother passed away in Hong Kong. And I took some time off to go back to Hong Kong for her funeral. And I remember the employer wasn't too happy that I took so much time off. And so when I came back, I knew I had to make a change, but I didn't know what it was. So I went on a self-discovery journey. I actually invested in over like a $10,000 boot camp. It was called the Enlightened Warrior training camp. I also enrolled my husband with me as well. And it was a huge commitment. And what it was all about digging deep into who you are, what you stand for. It's like, what are you willing to die for? Like, what do you really, really want in life? And it was one of those most highly physical boot camps I've ever attended. Like we had to carry like 100 bricks up the mountains, climbing up like things. It was just really highly physical. And I came back where my tribe of people told me, like, you can go after your dreams. Like, my dream is to really become a motivational speaker. And I always had this limiting belief that I was too young or I didn't have enough experience to share and never pursue that dream. And my tribe really encouraged me to go for it. So when I came back from that camp, I quit my consulting job.
Wow.
And I didn't know what to do. I just knew I had to quit and do something different. And within like a month, a classmate, approached me and presented me an opportunity, which was recruiting for an MBA, executive MBA program, like where I graduated from. And I thought that was a sign because I knew I wanted to do something different. I wasn't quite ready to start my own business yet, but I knew I wanted to do something related to presenting, speaking, coaching, mentoring. I knew those were the skills that I wanted to gain more of. And that opportunity pretty much had all that. I was traveling around, speaking to people, presenting about why I come for an MBA, interviewing, had one-on-one coffee chats, organized events. So it totally aligned with what I wanted to do more of. And I also saw it it was also like my market research at that time, where it was an opportunity for me to meet my ideal clients, highly ambitious professionals who are achievers, leaders. And that opportunity gave me access to meeting at least hundreds and hundreds of people that year.
So cool.
And so fast forward a year, I knew that was a springboard to starting my business. And I was telling myself, I'll do this for like a year and a half, 2 years. I'll quit after I get married, when I was less busy and didn't have time to actually create a business plan. And fast forward a year and a half, 2 months before my wedding, I got laid off. And I was devastated. I felt embarrassed. I felt ashamed. I was sad. But for some reason, that also gave me the fire to start my business within a week.
Wow.
I printed like 5,000 business cards, and I just called myself a coach and speaker and trainer. And that's how I got it. Like, got my speaking gigs and started like creating a workshop. And very interestingly, within a month of starting, that's when I also got the offer with Google to recruit for them. And I had to make a decision, do I take it or do I run my business? And so I just took it as a sign where it was an opportunity, which is a 1-year opportunity for me to do that for a year, to gain experience, because I knew I want to do something related to career coaching, helping people with their job search. And I just took that as a sign that this recruitment experience is going to really help me launch it. And so I did that for a year, and the rest was history.
I love that story. I love this. Sometimes it takes something like a layoff, something, that really jolts you to light that fire under you. I totally hear you.
Yeah. And I had a lot of fear too. And I think this is where maybe we can talk a little bit about this, is that there's a lot of fear, right? And when I talk to people about making a big change, the common concerns are what? Lack of stability, lack of income. What else? Like, am I good enough to do this? There's so many of this fear, and the what ifs, essentially the what ifs. Like, for you, how did you overcome those limiting beliefs or the fears to really go for it?
Well, so how did I overcome it? I feel like, for one thing, taking a bridge job, so I was strategic about it, right?
The bridge job, yes.
Right? Like, I didn't just flail from the layoff to I'm just going to do this, start from square one. I was very strategic about it, and I also acted. I didn't kind of let it stew in the what if. I was strategic. I created a buffer plan for myself. I acted, and you kind of play out worst case scenarios. Okay, so what if XYZ does happen? Then what?
Yeah.
Then it's like you have you ever heard of the book Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway?
Yes. Yeah.
So there's this line in that book. It's like, once you develop more belief in your ability to handle anything that gets thrown your way, that's when you're just like, bring it on. Like, what else could happen?
What else could happen? Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. So for me, it was, so you're right. I love what you said, being strategic about it. So even before I started my business, I already strategically, I took the life coaching training to become a life coach. Yeah. So I got trained in that. I did my market research in really understanding the market needs and pain points. I coached clients for like a nominal fee as well, to gain my experience as well. So I did, you can say, the prep. I didn't have the business plan, but I did a lot of prep work to gain my confidence there. Okay. And when I actually got laid off, my husband, who's graduated from like engineering, is totally numbers eye analytical. He crunched the numbers. He's like,
"That's nice. That's nice you have that."
And he's like, I remember his son. Like, he's like, he's like, worst case scenario, if you don't make any money for a year, we'll be fine.
See, perfect. Worst case scenario. He did all the numbers. There it is.
And that's all I needed to hear to be like, okay, I'm going to do this. And I was like, what's the worst case? The worst case, if I really don't make money for the year, I'm going to go find a corporate job.
Yeah, it's not like it disappears. It's still there. Yeah. You can still go back to that if you need to.
Yeah. So that's what I told my son. That's how I started with that. And I just, sometimes we just need someone to give us that little push and that belief in us to be like, okay, you'll be fine. For worst case. And then that's all I needed to hear to just go for it.
Yeah. Otherwise you're fantasizing about the worst case in the back of your mind. It's like, confront it. Okay. Yeah. Like, what'll happen if that happens? I love that your husband, you guys balance each other out and he crunched the numbers. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm a vision passion person. When Megan says, like, I love this, I was just recently laid off. So this is helpful to hear. That helped me light a fire for you. Yes, that's amazing. Krista said, I can relate to Betty's story 100%. Amazing. Yes. And Krista, all right, follow your passion, be open to opportunity in the midst of a big challenge. That's right. That's the lesson here. So, so we talked about, I guess, what steps do we take to figure out what's next? How did you know coaching was your calling?
Yeah. So how did I know coaching was a calling? You mentioned you took like a boot camp course to kind of figure that out. I feel like I kind of put myself through a similar boot camp kind of a thing and just getting really super introspective. So one of my superpowers is reading and research. Like, I'm an insane, like, I should have like a library. Like, my next place is going to have like a library because I read so much. You probably do too. I wouldn't be surprised. Are you a reader too?
I have a lot of books as well. I do more started listening now, audiobooks.
Oh, you're into audio?
Yeah. Audio, and podcasts.
That's how I really started my introspection journey, was reading a ton of books on finding your passion. I took a ton of assessments online, like, okay, what's my personality type? What are my strengths? What are my preferences? What motivates me? So I was kind of on that boot camp, and which is partly how I built my program, is what I went through myself. And, how did I know coaching? So what I saw was patterns, assessments that I took, introspections, journaling, all these exercises from these books. It kept popping up, coaching. It kept, and you got to look for those patterns, the stuff that no matter what assessment you take, no matter what journaling activity you're doing, you can't really get away from it. So, and I remember too, when I decided I'm going for it, I'm going for coaching, the first day that I showed up for my coaching certification, and I was in a room full of other prospective coaches. And I remember sitting in my seat and I was looking around the room. I was just listening to conversations and like absorbing the energy of the room. And everybody was so warm and open-minded and non-judgmental. And I just honestly remember thinking, this is my tribe. Like, I almost get chills thinking about it, because for so long I felt like a square peg in a round hole. And it was like the first time I was like, this is it. These are my people. And then as far as just picking my niche, right? Because within coaching, there's relationship coach, health coach, career coach, right? Because that's a whole nother journey, is picking your niche within coaching. Was going through, what am I best at? Right? So what have I overcome in my life? And, again, I kind of mentioned this, I'm really awesome in between corporate jobs. That's where I shine, marketing myself, getting your foot in the door, interview prep, negotiating. That was fun for me. That's what lit me up inside. And I love helping other people do that too. So for me, it was just like, why don't I take the thing I'm good at in between corporate jobs and blow that out?
Wow, amazing. I love that. I love that. For me, I love that. For me, like, I felt like 10 years ago, I wasn't really familiar with the term coaching.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like the way I stumbled upon it was actually through my job working in recruitment for the MBA Executive MBA missions. I met tons of executives. And one of my superpower is I have the ability to get people to open up to me. They'll tell me their entire life story within half an hour, 45 minutes meeting with them. And so it was through the executives I met who gave me the suggestion to consider looking to coaching. And I met one of them who was an executive coach. And so he was the one who introduced me to consider, going through life coaching training.
So cool.
And so that's how I got introduced to coaching. And so then I also did a lot of reflection work, like you said, looking for patterns. So when I reflect back on my patterns, I've always had this theme of teaching and training. When I moved here to Canada all by myself when I was 16, I was always volunteering, like welcoming like international students. I was like the big sister, the mentor. I was involved with creating like leadership development training, public speaking training. So I knew I always enjoyed that training, development piece and helping people piece.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people told me to become a teacher when I was like in high school, university. Even my professors were like, you should become a teacher. I was really good at math and people told me to like go become accounting professor or teacher and finance. And I was like, that's not what I'm interested in. I don't want to do teaching, accounting and finance. And so I knew there was something related to teaching, but I didn't want to become a teacher. And that's how I got introduced to thinking about motivational speaking. So, talking about the pattern, that's how I kind of got into is really understanding those patterns of what are those things that I naturally gravitate to. And even in my corporate career, I was always involved with lunch and learn sessions, recruitment, mentoring younger professionals. People came to me for career advice. I would go above and beyond creating like how to prepare for interviews, like internally. And so I was already the go-to person for career development and interview prep. And so I guess we talk about what patterns, and I forgot one thing I wanted to point out here. Oh, so the turning point, like you said, for the coaching training school, that was also a big pivotal moment when I went through coaching training. Like you said, I found my tribe as well.
Yeah.
I remember my last day of that training, I cried and I said, I wish I did this, invested in this instead of my MBA.
Wow, I got the chills again from that.
And I got so much out of it, and it cost a lot less, but it was such a transformational journey for me, not only in finding really my calling and purpose, but it also just really gave me that voice and confidence to step up my game.
Yeah.
Because English is not my first language, I always felt that it was a barrier for me. So I held back in speaking. But going through that coaching training, I don't know, it was something with just transformation experience that I was able to like just speak from my heart and speak with more confidence as well. And it really has helped me serve my clients now, like having gone through the layoff 10 years ago, I can also better serve my clients because more empathetic of the pains and the challenges I face there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love your story. It's interesting to hear the similarities that we both have in our stories too. And I can so imagine you wanting to step into that motivational speaker role because you have that light about you that is very motivational. And it's exactly that, right? It's looking for those patterns. And it sounds like it was like a natural progression for you. It's not like it wasn't really reinventing the wheel. It's like Dorothy with the red ruby slippers. Like you were wearing them, you just clicked them, right? That's
a good point. You're right. Because it's interesting because prior to my coaching business, I ran a math tutoring business for 10 years.
Interesting.
So I was a math tutor and I tutored hundreds of students from grade 1 to university level. And so it was almost, when you said natural progression, like, one of my best friends said, it's like, the business I run now is like the grown up version of it that has more of me of it. And I knew I always wanted to do speaking. So, and this is how we talk about niches. There's the coaching, but how I actually got it started was actually speaking when I worked at Google, where I started my speaking career. Then the coaching came in the year after.
How interesting. That is super interesting to me. And I would say I'm like opposite that because I'm an INFJ. What are you, by the way? What's your?
I'm ENFJ.
Oh, are you See, perfect. This makes perfect sense now. So I'm an INFJ. So speaking for me, it was like, oh, like, let me just work one-on-one with people. And then opposite of you, eventually I was like, oh, to get the word out, I have to do videos and, get out there more. So that's so funny.
Yeah. And we'll have to talk about that. All right. So if you guys resonate any of this, like tell us like what are some like key learnings so far? Share with us here. Okay. So next question is, what do we have here? So I think we covered some of the questions as well. Okay, let's talk about like the business itself. Like, what was the transition like the first few years in business? What were some of those challenging moments and what were some of the big wins?
Yeah. So, okay. So let's talk about the actual transition. So I guess what I would say, let me back up here. There's so much I know we only have like a half an hour left here. So I'm like, how much do I want to share? So the transition itself, of course, it was the certification like that, it gives you confidence. It gives you the skill set. So I went and got certified. I chose the niche. And I told you I got the bridge job, and that took off a lot of the angst and the pressure, like, oh, gotta make money, gotta. It was like, chill. Like you can have the bridge job, which was not very stressful, and you can be building your business on the side. And then I just started to put together the pieces of what it took to get the business up and running. I found an amazing photographer. I knew I needed, we are our brand. Right. So I knew I needed some great photography for my website. I found an amazing web designer, Katie O'Brien, and we started to work together on putting together the website, started to do the logos, the branding. Katie helped me with that as well. I created a Pinterest board of, like inspiration and color schemes and logos. And just similar to you, I started pro bono coaching clients, getting my feet wet, tweaking the coaching package. Then I started charging, right? First, let me try $50 a session. Let me try $100 a session. Let me try a package for 1,000, right? And you continuously increase your confidence, but also add value to your package. So how can I make it better? Okay, now it's worth more. How can I make it better? So that was part of the journey. Of the transition itself. It wasn't as scary. It wasn't as big and bad as I made it out to be in my brain. I would say like you asked about the challenging part.
Yeah, the challenge and what are the wins as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so the challenge for me, and I'm interested in hearing like how you and I are different here, since you're the ENFJ, I'm the INFJ. For me, sometimes as an entrepreneur, you have to suck it up and try something new as an entrepreneur. There are different parts of the business that you're like, ooh, feels a little uncomfortable and natural, but I know I need to try that to see if that'll work for my business. So one of the things I tried as I was starting was in-person networking. So I joined BNI. I started going to networking events where I thought I would find job seekers. And I was really pushing myself. Because as an introvert, I'm like, oh gosh, I have to be surrounded by a ton of people at once. And man, I remember sometimes I'd go into the bathroom of these events and just kind of sit there and be like, okay, I can do this. Let me just talk to 3 people, right? So that for me was challenging. But I also am a KPI, a key performance indicator kind of person. So I started monitoring, okay, where am I actually getting leads? Where am I actually getting clients? And for me, I'm not saying this is the case for everyone, I didn't get clients through in-person networking. I got it all through online. So I was able to release that. But that was a challenge. I had to go through that to figure out, does this work for my model? The biggest win that I had was once I dropped the bridge job and put full focus into my business, I was able to pull 6 figures my first full year of just coaching, just my business, which was so cool because I remember when I first heard about career coaching, I Googled how much does a career coach make? And it was like 40,000. I was like, what?
Most coaches, yeah.
I was like, no. So I didn't trust what I read online. I just, as an entrepreneur, you can bust through that. You don't have to accept that. So that was one of my biggest wins.
Oh, I love that. Oh, that's so good. I love hearing that. So for me, in terms of the transition, so that first year when I started, I was working full time. at Google. So my business was more, I consider, was like a side thing. And it was more through the speaking I did. I did like a dozen speaking gigs that year. And I had about like a handful of clients, not a lot, just because I had a full-time job. The year after, when I left Google, that's when things really grew, right? Like my sales grew, and my speaking engagements, I focused actually on speaking engagements. I had another doubled. It was over like at least 24 speaking engagements I did. And so what I figured out is that every time if I speak in front of 100 people, I will get at least 3 to 5 leads in terms of clients. I mean, like clients out there. So I just started speaking, actually. Like my primary part of my marketing was I was doing a lot of speaking. And the year after, like 2013, that's when I launched my own, what I call my own like TED Talks, where I actually traveled around different universities and I gave pro bono talks on my signature talk, like how to differentiate as top talent and become more remarkable. So I remember in the fall time, in like September, October timeframe, I did like 10 talks in a month. I was going through all the top universities here, and I actually started with more the young professionals and new grads. That's where I started. And I also spoke at a lot of nonprofit employment agencies, job fairs, professional associations. I would just get myself out there to talk. And I loved it because for me, I actually get energy from speaking in front of hundreds of people. I get really, really excited speaking in front of people. And so I love that. Like my first couple years, I was just out there all the time speaking, and that really helped grow my business. And then the year after that, this was 2013 was the year I brought on a group of interns to help me grow my business as well. Cool. I remember I brought on like 9 interns, and my husband's like, that's too many people. Lesson learned. Don't bring on that many interns, just 1 or 2. But I recruited them through the university that I gave talks at. So I got like 9 interns who helped me with like the writing, design, social media, and that really helped. So that year, I had a really good intern who was an English major, amazing writer. And so because I'm more a speaker than writer, so I know you're more like a writer. Yeah. I would speak about my ideas or jot down my key points or record, and she would write it out for me.
So awesome.
And so that summer, like I published like at least 2 blog posts a week.
Smart.
So slowly within 6 months, like I published like a lot of blog posts, and that's how I started getting also business through Google search, SEO search.
Yes.
Through that. So I got leads through my speaking and then through my blog posts of people finding me online. And then it was really then the last several years, like through LinkedIn, where I was more active on posting content, where now a lot of my leads are actually through LinkedIn or through my referrals now.
Yep.
Okay. The other thing I did was also, I haven't talked about, is my recruiting side business, because I have my recruiting background. So I also was part-time with a recruitment agency where I got recruiting gigs. And also in my own business, I also did my own recruitment for small businesses or medium-sized businesses as well. So that was another revenue stream. Like one thing I really learned, I guess part of my strategy was to diversify income. Through coaching, speaking, and recruiting to diversify. And I created I mapped out like a funnel of how the leads come in to get to like my one-on-one coaching business there.
I love
so
that.
In terms of challenges, what are the challenges? Oh my goodness, so many. So for me, I'm a big, I love new things. Like I would try new things all the time. So every year I would challenge myself to do something new. So I remember this. So back in 2013, I hired my interns. 2014, I wrote my book, created 6 online courses, and then launched my first interview program.
Ooh, you're busy.
Yeah, I was really busy. This was pre-kids. So I was like, let's get it done here. Let's do all this.
Interns, let's go.
So I did a lot in 2014. And then 2015, I had my first son. And that's when things had to slow down a bit because, we're the kid, things, I knew I had to slow down. So that summer, I revamped my entire website, launched a brand new membership site with 6 online courses, and also updated my offering. One of the things that I really learned through my business is instead of just offering one-off sessions, I've always offered programs with 3 different levels of low, medium, high. And this is something I've learned from my husband, who's a marketer, is to have a low, medium, high type of pricing. And that has worked really well for me there.
I love that. It's so interesting to hear, and that's the cool thing too. there's not one magical way of doing things to become a successful business or a successful coach. You can tailor which direction you go to what works best for you or what you enjoy. Like I do the opposite of you. I'll write a blog and then I'll film a little video clip based off of what I already wrote. Right. So whereas with you, you can speak, and then you get that transcribed. So that's the cool thing. People can tailor it to what works for them.
That's so true. This is where it leads into that topic, like, business model, like what's your business model here? And I think, going back is like, you got to figure out what works for you at the end of the day. Like I've met many other career coaches who do something very different. Like they don't like sales and marketing. They just want to, they want to be part of, let's say, a group of a company where they just get coaching opportunities, or they partner with a bigger company where they get to do facilitation work. So you got to really figure out what works for you there.
Yeah. And where you enjoy spending your time, and then outsource the rest of it. Absolutely. So my business model, so I offer 2 separate coaching packages. So I don't do one-off session or anything like that. I have 2 separate packages that I offer people. So package number 1 is what I call the Career Bliss Coaching Package. And this is for the woman who wants to identify her passion and she's not sure what that is yet. And then she wants to transition into it. Usually it's another kind of a job, maybe a different corporate job. So this is a 6-month coaching program. It's a 6-month coaching program, and it's one-on-one coaching. So it's me, it's my client, and I'm coaching her through it. In between sessions, she has access to a customized client portal with videos and worksheets and trainings. And then we meet up again like this, and I coach her through it. So that's that one. And then I also offer a 4-month group coaching program with the same Career Bliss coaching topic. So that's where we're meeting group online. It's all virtual. I don't do any in person. So group coaching online. The second package I offer is the 5 C's of building a 6-figure coaching practice. And I created that. You were looking at my website earlier because I started seeing so many corporate women coming to me that were saying, you know what? I think I want to go off on my own and create a coaching business. So I was like, let me show you what I did. So that's really what that program is walking them through it. And it's the same deal. It's a 6-month coaching program. It's virtual. So we're meeting either video like this or over the phone. And then I'm also offering a 4-month group coaching with that same package too. So my business model, online, one-on-one, or group.
And did you start your group, was it this year or last year?
This year.
It was this year that you started the group program, and the business one was also started this year as well.
I started them, and I started them based on what I saw people need. I didn't want to turn people away that needed help, but also there's only so much time that we have, right, to give to people. So group coaching is another really great model to help more people.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I loved what you shared there. So for me, so I talked about how I have the speaking. That's how one avenue of income stream. And then the other was the recruiting. And then the other is the one-on-one coaching. So I start off with package as well. It was either I don't remember what it was actually back in the day, but it was at least always 3 options. It was either like 2 months, 4 months, or 6 months type of program with me based on a number of sessions. And I've always included unlimited like email tech support, access to like worksheets or my online courses. And then I'll review like their documents of like the resumes, the LinkedIn and interview prep. And then if there's anyone that I know in my network that I can connect them to, I would make introductions as well. Because of my recruiting background, I'm able to also teach my clients on how to really optimize and leverage LinkedIn to network effectively as well. So that's always been I would consider like the bread and butter of my signature program. And over the years, how it's evolved, I would say it's still been pretty similar. I would probably have just adjusted a number of sessions. Like right now, what I've adjusted to based on just COVID, because I know that probably people need more support. I've actually extended the duration of my coaching program. Like extra 2 months. So instead of 2 months, it's like 4 months. Like 4 months, it's 6 months now, 6 months to 8 months. And I've also adjusted the number of sessions from like 3 to 4, 6 to 8. And then my highest one's always been 12. So I've just adjusted the number of sessions accordingly. And I've also now added bonus monthly group calls with my one-on-one clients to provide extra.
Very cool.
where I answer their questions. So it's also been a way for me to test the group program as well option. I've actually launched in 2016 my first group program. This was after I had my second child, where I launched a called the Ultimate Career Boost group program. And interestingly, the way I've actually sold or generated leads is actually through webinars. So I would do a free webinar, and then through that, I would make a pitch. So I pitched my group program back in 2016. And so it was really interesting that out of the 20 people, pretty much all of them signed up for my one-on-one program. Only one person signed up for the group.
So interesting.
And it was so interesting. So that was, for me, it was the clue that people still prefer the one-on-one, but still open to having the group. Okay. So I still so after that, and what I've learned in the group program is that there's a lot of logistics in terms of communication, planning, setting things up. Like, you're the leader, you have to really guide everyone through. So I decided just to stick with one-on-one because I two young kids there that, one-on-one was easier for me to manage and then fast forward today, like since I guess COVID, in terms of how we can talk about, I guess, in terms of adapting to our new business model, what I've been doing now is doing a lot more online webinars and events. So since COVID, I've been doing like monthly free like webinar trainings, which is like a full-blown like training workshop. And then in between that, I've started doing these like smaller events, which is about 50 to 80 people, where I run networking events. Because I've noticed, I get invited a lot to talk about networking. So I decided to create an experience for people where they can network live and practice elevator pitch, get feedback, and then exchange contacts as well. So that's been something new that I started doing just the last 3 months, and testing out the what I consider like the entry price type of online events there. And what I've realized, and just the learning for those who are here, is I've really learned the importance of just nurturing your followers, your subscribers as well. Like, I've seen the journey right now of people coming to my events over and over again, and then they become my one-on-one clients afterwards, whether they book a one-off session, which is something I introduced. I've had it last year, but I've also adjusted my pricing because of COVID, where I lowered my pricing that people can just have one-off sessions. And from there, they can decide whether they want to upgrade to work with me for a longer period of time there.
So interesting. It's so interesting to hear how you pivoted your business. And my wheels are turning. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I like that idea with the networking webinar. That's really cool. I would say for me, I tried to do some pivoting when COVID hit. I created a short-term 6-week job search accelerator program. So, I have the 6-month package that I typically offer. And I was like, ooh, people are getting laid off. People want help quick. Let me create the 6-week program. Now, my particular niche, so I'm working with a pretty specific niche, mid to senior level corporate women. And she didn't really latch onto that as much. I still was getting my revenue from women that they wanted to really take their time and being introspective during all this stuff happening in the world and figuring out, you know what? I don't know if I want to go back to quick get another corporate job. So I still got a lot of people that wanted that 6-month package, that introspection. So, I stuck with that because that's what I saw that she wanted. I'm 100% virtual, so it's not like I really needed to pivot from in-person to virtual. But I tried to push out more content. And to your point with nurturing your audience, I've had people that have followed me for a year. And then finally they're like, oh yeah, I read this and I watched that and I read this. I'm like, oh, like I didn't know you were, because not everybody's commenting, not everybody's engaging. They're just kind of watching or listening or learning. So I did pivot some of my content just to reflect what people were telling me that they were dealing with.
Yeah. I love that. I noticed you've definitely pivoted with the content there. And for you, one thing I noticed is you also publish your articles like that you're featured in other sites. Like, do you pitch to them or do you get invited? Yeah,
so both. I've had some that reach out to me and say, hey, I read, like there's certain articles that performed really well. Like I had wrote an article when I first started about just fear. Like it's how do you overcome fear and still go after something that you're passionate about. So people will read that and then reach out and say, hey, can I use some of that for our website? So I've had that. But I also, have you heard of Help a Reporter Out? Haro?
Yes, Haro, yes.
Yep. So also, so for people that are listening right now that are thinking about how to build your authority with your niche, Help a Reporter Out is something you can sign up for, and you get an email with a list of topics of journalists that are saying, hey, we're writing a story. We need people to interview for these topics. So I would pitch like, hey, here, I can speak on this, I can write on this, you can interview me on this, and then start to get more experience that way. So it was a healthy mix of both. And also I have a business coach, and she invited somebody on that also gave us ideas about how to get your content out there. So it's been a healthy mix.
I love that. Yeah. I love that. That's good. So for those who are here, we're going to be wrapping up. So if you have questions, feel free to ask us questions as well. I love that you mentioned business coach. It's something maybe when we talk about is like, what have you invested in as well? Like for me, I'm a firm believer of investing in personal development. So one of my, I would say, philosophies I have is like every year I would invest in something, whether it's an in-person training or an online program. So a few bigger ones that I've invested is one I did 2013. I went to Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within. And that was a huge breakthrough, like walking on fire. Like I just came back like really, really excited about life. Another one was 2014. Yeah, 2014, I went to Robin Sharma's the 48-hour transformation. So that was the year I wrote my book in 6 courses, waking up 5 a.m. And so what I've learned, and actually my husband challenged me this because he's a numbers guy. He's like, for whatever you invest, like you have a 5K, 10K program, you need to make that money back.
So smart. Your husband's a smart man. Yeah.
So I make sure I make that money back. Whatever I put in, I make that money back and more. So that's the challenge he always gives me whenever I do that. I've invested in Marie Forleo's B-School program in 2013 as well. Yeah, your B-Schooler. Yeah. And so that helped me with setting up the website there. I invested in Natalie McNeil's The Conquer Club, where I was part of for like 2 or 3 years, and to really help me scale and grow my business and setting up automation and systems and really taking things like more like online there. And then most recently was last year that it was one of my biggest investments ever. Was I was part of a speaking mastermind. It was only like 6 or 7 women with Chantel Adams, and she's a storytelling coach, a speaker coach, because I really wanted to invest in becoming a better speaker and how to really pitch myself for to the media and to like bigger conferences. So I invested in her program. It was 6 months long. And there was a retreat in Mexico where I got my speaker reel video done professionally, where I shared my story and mission. So that was really next level in terms of pro. Yes. And she also got a designer to help me create my speaker bio sheet and that I could actually send to organizations. So it just looks more professional now that I can actually like, here's my video, here's my speaker bio. This is what I can offer you there. So that was my big investment last year. And I think that has really helped me, I would say, step up my game as a speaker in terms of even doing webinars and presenting after going through that 1 year program or 6 month program there.
I'm like making mental notes. I'm like, oh, got to check that out. Got to check that out. But B-School, I'm with you with the B-School. B-School was just a really great way to kind of kick off the business fundamentals. And yeah, she's got videos and worksheets. So B-School, Amy Porterfield. I'm an Amy Porterfield fan. Yeah. Are you Porterfield too?
Yes.
Amy Porterfield, she's got a great podcast. And so I definitely took a lot from the Amy Porterfield. So I invested in that. I did something called Coach Pony. Coach Pony is just, I mean, we're just listing off a ton of different it's not that you guys listening, you have to do all these things. And you do want to stay focused. I mean, I would not recommend signing up for a million things at once. I tried to one at a time and focus. But Coach Pony was helpful. Obviously, IPEC is where I was certified. I took something called Career Thought Leaders Hidden Job Market training, and it's about the ins and outs of networking and, the jobs that aren't posted. How do you get your foot in the door? How do you find those out? Get into crucial conversations. I took a course with the Professional Association of Resume Writers and Career Coaches. And then, of course, I hired a business coach. And I'm with her for a full year. Her name's Jessica Yarbrough. And again, you just keep up leveling. And it's exactly what you said. Once it's not about, oh, I gave money to that. It's an investment. It's the most important investment you're going to make, because you make that money back tenfold. And it's exactly what your husband said. You don't pay for something with the thought like, oh, buy to that money. It's like, no, you're going to, the key is taking action on what you learned. Thank you. Don't just absorb, take action on what you learned.
Yeah, totally agree. Take action. That's a key, right? It's so easy, I would say now in the online world, you can just buy courses and buy these programs, but are you really actually doing the work, right? One of the my favorite saying from Robin Sharma is like, nothing's going to work if you don't do the work, right? You have to do the work there. So amazing. So we have a question here. How did you address risk? Full-time to own business. Did you invest in marketing coaches to help with business and strategy? Well, that's a good question. The risk question here.
Yeah. So how did I address risk? I think for me, a couple things. So it was the bridge job, right? So it's not like I went from this corporate role to just starting my business. The bridge role that I took, it was another corporate role. It was for 9 months, and it gave me the space to really just ramp up on my business, to ramp up. And how do you address risk? Well, you start to, first off, you interview your ideal client avatar. So you start to have conversations with these people. What are your pain points? What do you want? What are you looking for? You build your package, you test it out, right? Are people buying it? If they're not, why not? And you tweak. So it's not like I let go of that bridge job before I saw that stuff was working. I was building an income. It was coming in. I had an income stream. So by the time I released, it wasn't that much of a jolt. It was already coming in. And I decided I wanted to save, like, for me, I think it was 6 months of a buffer fund just so I could breathe. So you just have to make that assessment with your own finances on what you want your financial situation to look like before you take the leap. And yeah, I totally hired a business coach, somebody that had already been there, done that. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's people that, have already done what we want to do. So you just, you hire them and you learn from them.
Yeah, that's a good one. I would say, so for me was testing things out, but also diversifying my income stream, right? So having more than one income stream, like, really helped with mitigating, I would say, the risk there. Yeah. The other, I would say, is, and I see this, like, I've talked to different coaches as well, is being really clear on what you offer and who you offer to. Like, what is really your offering and what you have to offer, and what is the pricing of it as well, and being really good with pitching. Like, I think this is part of that sales and marketing. I know a lot of my friends and coaches who hate getting on consult calls or pitching, and it just feels icky. So I think big part of it, I would say, that mindset work that needs to be done, and getting comfortable with getting on a call and understanding people's needs and pitching your program there.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is, what I've learned is you have to really think of it like a business versus a hobby. It's one of the big, I would say, game changers when I attended Brandon Bouchard's training back in the day. And he really talked about, are you managing it like a business or a hobby? When you're managing like a business, you are going to do things strategically in terms of activities, right? It's not just like, oh, I feel like doing this. Like, maybe this will be good. You have to really have a strategy of how you plan on generating leads or building your email list, increasing, I call it, your visibility and credibility online as well. And that's going to really would push the needle forward in growing the business as well. Yeah, and those are the key things. That's a good question, because I think this is where it may hold a lot of people back. It's like, well, I want to do this, but I don't know what it takes. And I think part of it is you gotta really think of what are some things you strategically, intentionally want to do and put in the effort. And so when I saw, when I published like blog posts, like back in the day, when I knew I was getting leads through that, I decided to continue doing that. And then when I started doing webinars, I was like, okay, I'm getting leads or clients through that. I'm going to continue doing that. Or when I'm getting leads through LinkedIn, I'm going to continue doing the content marketing as well.
I'm with you there.
So you got to look for things that work, and then you're just going to have to, like you said, like amp it up, like level it up as well. Like even when, I don't know, do you do consultation calls? You do, right? I know you do.
I do discovery calls. Yep.
You do discovery calls? Yeah, I call it consultation calls. So one of the things I notice, sometimes people don't put the book a call, but as soon as I actually added that book a call, that made it easier and convenient for people to book a consultation call, and it made it a lot faster for me to close as well. Yeah. So that's something I noticed. It's been really beneficial. However, I'm actually thinking like these days now, because I've been getting much busier the last several months, I'm actually thinking of not necessarily taking it down, but I need to do a better job in pre-screen, because what I have noticed recently with all the webinars I've been doing, people book, I've been fully booked with my consult calls, and I've had people who are not necessarily my ideal clients or who miss the meeting. They don't show up. So I've decided I need to do a better job in pre-screening before letting them to book a time in my calendar there.
I'm with you. And yeah, I definitely have like an application to apply for a discovery call. I don't dole them out to anyone, because I want to make sure that they're a good fit and that they're in it, that they're really in it. Like they're serious about a transition and they're willing to do what it takes, and that they, they're a good match for my program, so that it's not wasting their time. And so that we only have so many hours in a week. So that's been helpful.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So what are your key takeaway, guys? Would love to hear, like, what are some of the key nuggets, what questions you have. I have a few more questions, Betty, here. What advice do you have for those who are looking to leave corporate and start their virtual business?
I mean, do it. Do it. Do it. You can only fight fear with action. To sit around and kind of stew on it and the what ifs and, micro acts of bravery. Take a small step towards the goal each and every day. And this is not about, I think what is tough, and by the way, I'm an all or nothing person, so I get this, but I think what's tough for people is we sometimes tend to be all or nothing. We think it's like black or white thinking, like, oh, either I have my own business or I have a corporate job and I have to quit tomorrow if I'm going to commit to this. No, like, we don't want you to do that. We want you to mitigate your risk and build a strategy. Exactly what you said earlier. It's, you can build a strategy and get some guidance. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's no way I would be here without guidance from other people who have paved the way, who have been there before me. And then it becomes enjoyable. Then you can just follow the steps that they took.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And I have to say, like, even, in today's economy right now, I think that, having what I call even like it's the side hustle, or, it's a good way to test things out as well. But I think also just, if you really have that passion or that desire, now is the time. Like, I think like the barriers of entry right now to virtual business is so much easier than 5 years ago. I was just talking to my best friends yesterday. She helped me revamp my entire website and membership site. It cost me at least $20,000. And the last 2 months, my husband helped me transition to a brand new website, membership site that only took him a couple months. Woo. And so the technology now is so much easier to create a website, set something up, create these webinars. It's just much easier, even though if you're not tech savvy, but if you're willing to learn, or if at least you're willing to get someone to teach you to learn, it is very doable, like compared to just even a couple of years ago now to start an online business.
Totally agree. I mean, the world is at our fingertips. I feel more security doing this than I ever felt in the corporate world, where you are at the risk of getting laid off, or the politics or whatever. I feel, because I'm the master of my own domain. Whatever I put in, I'm going to get out.
Yes. So you have more control, right, of your business. Like, you don't have to worry about someone letting you go. You have more control of what you want to do as well. Even for me, like the last month, actually, my business has been much busier than before. Like, I would say my month of May's coaching was pretty much equivalent to my first quarter in terms of the coaching I had, and also like the sales as well. And so I know, and it's because of what's happening in the economy here right now. But I think this is where I really want to, this is why you and I are doing this talk as well, is that we're noticing more and more people are coming to us for guidance and advice on how to pivot and how to start
Yeah.
their own business. We're both getting these type of inquiries right now. So I'm actually also looking to actually starting a program on starting your own business, similar to you as well, Betty.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, because we already have all the steps that we took to get to this point. So it's a natural progression. It's very easy to just walk somebody through what you walk through. And we've already tried different things. So we kind of see what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so another question, and we're going to wrap up here too, is like, how do you find good business coaches in the type of business you are planning to do?
I like that one. I mean, I can talk about how I found my business coach, and there's a million ways, and so I'm interested in hearing what you say. But for me, first off, it's tough because there's a million different coaches out there, and you have to figure out who you trust and who's got the credibility and who's gotten the results. So for me, the coach training program that I went through, IPEC, Institute of Professional Excellence in Coaching, that's my tribe. So I already trust these guys, my tribe. And one of the gals in my program, we have a private Facebook group where we share information. She had a long list of qualifications she was looking for in a business coach. And I remember thinking, whoever she goes with, I'm gonna go with that person too. So I reached back out to her and said, who did you ever find? And then she shared that name. So it was through a referral of somebody I trusted in my tribe. And there was a long list of qualifications. Like you had to have already built a 6-figure business. You had to have, testimonials. I want to speak to some of these people, right? So she had a list of qualifications that she used to filter that person out. And then I had a conversation and it felt right.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Yeah. I would say so for me, my suggestion here is find people that you can start following, right? On LinkedIn, on Facebook, on YouTube, start following their content and see if it resonates with you, right? Because everyone, even business coaches, there's so many different niches in terms of expertise, but also just their style and communication and their offering is so different. So see what resonates with you. Like, so for me, a lot of the people that coaches I've hired, mentors I've hired, I've actually been following their work for quite some time. And so I have an idea of who they are and what their style is and what they give. And I always set a criteria. I'm a big fan of, like, I think because of my recruiting experience, I always set a criteria. Like, what is it that I really want to learn? Yeah. Who do I really want to learn it from? And here's the thing I would say is that you don't necessarily have to pick or to hire a coach who is like, let's say 7 figures or way, way, way ahead. Like, it can just be someone like just a few steps ahead, couple steps already that you can really relate to, who can help you there. So that's really key. I actually find, I don't know if you find this, like sometimes when I get in consult calls, I ask people like, how do you know when you found your right coach? And most of them can't answer that. And what I find is that they haven't really thought about, like, what kind of coach do I want? What is the area expertise that I really want to learn and gain? So I think get clear on that first in terms of your objective before you go, hire or recruit, a coach or trainer or whatever.
I love that. Both of those pieces of advice. So following the person first, because that's what we've been talking about. We push out a lot of free content. So follow the person. Does their content resonate with you? 1, and 2, having clarity on what do you want to get out of it? Because you're not just hiring a business coach for kicks and giggles. Like, specifically, is it to build a 6-figure business? Is it to build an online course? What is it? And does that person deliver on that?
You're absolutely right. Like, I have quite a few people I want to purchase the program, but I know timing also right now may not be the right time if I don't want to focus on that now. Right. So you can also have a list of, like, wish list of people down the road that you want to invest. Similar to that speaking mastermind, I knew I wanted to hire her, but 3-5 years ago, I was not ready yet. I was not ready to really take it to that next level there. So I just had it back in my mind. And when she had this mastermind, I was like, okay, I'm going to invest.
Yeah. Timing's everything.
Timing. Yes. Okay. All right. So just to wrap up here, where can people find you to learn more?
Yeah, so definitely bettykempa.com is my website, BETTYKEM as in Mary, P as in Paul, A. And then, of course, LinkedIn. So I'm at Kempa Betty. So it's my last name is flipped with my first name, but follow me on LinkedIn as well.
Amazing, amazing. You have amazing content. So for those who are here, like make sure you follow Betty. Like she has amazing, amazing content there. So for me, you can find me at mymarketability.com, or you can also follow me on LinkedIn at Diana YK Chan there. I also have a lot of free resources on my YouTube channel. You can either look me up at Diana YK Chan or at My Market Ability there. Okay. Anything else? Anyone here? I still have about 15 of you here online. Any questions that you have for us that we can help answer? Was this helpful? What did you learn? This was so fun, Betty. I have to say.
I know. I love talking. I was saying to you before the call, we could talk about this stuff forever because it's so fun. It's building a business. Yeah,
I have to say this was so fun. Like even for me, one thing I didn't mention is the last 2 or 3 years, I've actually been already thinking that I want to pivot from the job search coaching to more business coaching, sales and marketing type of coaching, because that's really where I'm really passionate about, or even presentations and communications there. So we'll see. We'll see where things will go.
Well, just the next natural progression.
The next natural progression there. Yes, absolutely. All right. So some positive feedback. This was amazing. This was great. Thank you. Okay. One question here. Can you share one of your biggest failures and what did you learn from it? Ooh, that's so to wrap up.
Yeah. Failures. It's so tough because I don't want to sound cheesy, but I feel like I've almost trained my brain. I don't look, even though I have failed, I don't look at things as failures. It's just, oh, I learned. Mm-hmm. The 6-week job search accelerator course that I pushed out recently, that didn't really stick with my market. She doesn't want a quick fix, let me just quick get into a job. She wants the 6-month blown out one-on-one coaching introspection. So, yeah, I could be like, oh, that failed. But to me, it's just, it didn't stick. And sometimes as an entrepreneur, you are trying and testing things to see what sticks. But for sure, after each time something like that happened, and even Diana and I had this conversation is, oh, what could I do differently next time? I do that every single time something doesn't go the way I thought it would, is, oh, why did that happen? And what could I do different next time? And I have like list. And then I can share that with my clients as well. So they don't have to go through what I went through.
Yeah. That's amazing. Even for me, I don't look at it as failures. I look at it as lessons learned from the difficult challenges that I faced. So I would say one of my biggest one was in 2015 when I was pregnant. That was the year when I decided to revamp, like brand new logo, new branding, new website, new launch of membership set with 6 courses while I was pregnant. And, like when you're pregnant, like you have this, what do you call it? Mommy brain. Like you forget things. You're just not as productive. But that was the year where I took on the biggest projects of my life and my business. So I brought on my friend to help out. She was my project manager, and I ended up hiring people through her network. And it was so big, like the project was so big. I remember I was still recording my courses when I was in labor.
Oh my gosh. Woo.
And I was working after I had my son, and I was still finalizing the editing. And we launched like a couple of weeks after I had my son, and it was just so much. But because I'm an achiever, like I was like, okay, we can do this. I mean, we launched, but it was a lesson learned where I had to really learn to also take a step back, especially having my first child, that I can't be taking on that kind of volume of work after having my kids. So one of the biggest things I had to deal with the last even several years was just being okay with just doing like one big thing at a time versus doing multiple things. So that would be one of my biggest lessons learned, is just, especially being an achiever, is like we can do all these things, but I had to adjust my lifestyle and everything accordingly after I had kids there. And being okay with, okay, I just created a blog post, that's a win. Or I created a video, that's a win. I sent out an email, that's a win. And so that was one of my biggest lessons I would say I've learned like over the last 7 years is celebrating those milestones along the way there, and don't see yourself that I'm not doing enough or seeing yourself as a failure there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I can so I mean, I don't have kids, but it's the same thing. I think as entrepreneurs, shiny object, like, oh, I want to do this, and you have goals, and I have a whiteboard, and here's how much I want to do. And you have to care for yourself. You have to have that self-care.
Yes.
And it's almost like business of one. You got to decide, what do I want to achieve this year, this quarter, and then focus on that one thing at a time.
Yes, yes, yes. I want to talk quickly about self-care. You just light a light bulb in me about self-care. I've actually, actually before COVID, I've been taking Fridays off for the last few years.
Yeah.
And I used to, this is pre-COVID, I would actually go for a massage once a month, manicure once a month, facial once a month. And it was my way of self-care where I just feel good, doing good for the things for myself, that I felt really good in my business. And I think that's so key. Like, I actually worked less hours, but producing more in terms of revenue and just the quality of the content out there, because I was taking care of myself as well.
So true. Well, you're inspiring me. Once we get out of this whole thing, Spa Friday. I love that.
Now, this has been definitely challenging. The last 3 months with 2 kids at home, and this is why I was been telling people, why I do webinars at this time is because my kids are out for a car ride now with my husband.
Oh, okay.
And this is the only time I actually have complete quietness in the home.
Smart.
Right? Otherwise, you hear all this background noise or TV noise there. So
I know,
you got to do what works for you.
My poor significant other, I've sent him outside for me to film this right now. So he's sitting in his car waiting.
You see? So you got to do what works. You got to make it work. So anyhow, I hope you guys really enjoy this. We're getting some great positive feedback. Very inspiring to listen to your journeys. Thank you so much. Have to face your fears regardless of your situation, one battle at a time. Yes. As long as we learn from mistake and we don't make the same mistake again and learn from the mistake. Amazing. Right. Oh, this is so good. I'm so glad. Thank you so much for being here with us. We really appreciate you. Me. Yeah, this was so good. Thank you for just joining me and saying yes. When I invited you, this was my first time doing this. It's so talk about business of behind the scenes. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, guys, for joining us.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. All right. Take care, guys. Have a good weekend. Bye now.